What's up, everybody? This is Craig, and this is day 23 of my 30-day video challenge. In today's video, I want to talk about perfectionism and how it impacts my life as a creator. I am what many would call a perfectionist. I like to get things just right. I want things to look their best. I want to put my best foot forward. I want my work to be a true representation of myself. And many times, this desire for representing myself well or putting my best foot forward, this has really impacted me in a negative way. There's nothing wrong with wanting to put your best work out there or your best foot forward when it comes to your career or your work, but this also comes with some downsides. For a long time, I allowed my desire for perfection and my desire to only present my best work prevent me from doing a lot of things. A lot of times I would not publish something because I wasn't quite sure that it was what I wanted to publish. It wasn't my best work, or I was just a little bit insecure about what I had just written. Some of the downsides of being a perfectionist and allowing your perfectionism to keep you from putting your work out there is that it really can hold you back in making progress, whether that's finding work, whether that is advancing in your craft, whatever it is, it can keep you from making progress because you are so afraid and you are so uncomfortable with putting your work out there because it might be judged in a negative way. While there's nothing wrong with wanting to make sure you're presenting quality work, you really have to be careful about how far you take that. That desire to only put the best out there or the best representation of myself out there kept me from launching a podcast for 10 years. So just to kind of give you some background, I bought a microphone in 2013. And I bought this microphone. It was specifically for podcasting. And I bought this microphone and I used it here and there. I would use it for school and use it for recordings for school around my computer, but I never really used it to record a podcast. I remember during that time that I bought some other podcasting equipment, like a handheld recorder, to be able to record interviews, and I never really used them. You see, there was always something underneath the surface keeping me from launching a podcast. Now, keep in mind also that I really didn't have a topic for a podcast. I didn't have a direction I wanted to take with the podcast. I knew I wanted to start a podcast. I knew that's what I was supposed to be doing. I bought all the equipment to do so, and I never launched anything. I did use it for other projects where it was podcast related, but there was nothing for my podcast, simply because I was so afraid of putting something out there. One, yeah, I didn't have a topic, so that is a pretty big hindrance, but you can come up with a topic. That's not impossible. I only realized how much perfectionism had hindered my growth when I started the Overflow podcast in 2023. I began wondering, when did I get this mic? Why did I get this microphone? I couldn't remember. And so I started looking up, my receipts on when I purchased it. I started looking at other files that I had, and I did some digging, and that's when I kind of came across stuff that I had started and never published. I just want to mention that, perfectionism has held me back in many ways, and that's just one of them. Another way that perfectionism has held me back is in writing. Many times that I would write stuff, or I would not even start to write stuff because I was concerned about putting stuff out there that was not quite finished, or I was worried about how it would be perceived. And I was just uncomfortable with putting it out on the web, even though it was on my website. I controlled it, but it prevented me from publishing. And so something recently that has changed in me is this willing to experiment. Somewhere in the last year, I think it was in 2023, I think it was sometime in 2023, I realized that I need to be able to publish often for a while and be willing to stink at something before I got good at it. And that meant putting it out there for the world to see or hear or read or whatever, and be willing to receive criticism based on what I put out there. And I really began this with the Overflow podcast, where I was just putting these episodes out there because it was serving another purpose. It wasn't solely just for me, this was for other people. And that really helped me kind of get over that hump of putting something out there that I was, well, maybe not my best or not what I wanted, but it was something that I was doing and I was learning from. And so I began this process of just putting stuff out there. And, just about every week I would get better at what I was doing. Either I would try something different or I would research, hey, how do I do this particular thing? And I would learn how to do it better, and then I would incorporate it into the next episode. And so these little improvements really helped me. Now, granted, my first episodes were pretty horrible. They were pretty robotic, and of course, I was not speaking very fluidly. I was pretty flat and unanimated. But, you really have to start somewhere and be willing to put it out there for a while. And so that started me being a little bit more comfortable with putting work out there that wasn't exactly what I had imagined. This also translated over to YouTube as well, because Overflow had a YouTube channel, and I thought, well, if I'm going to put this out there, I'm going to put it on YouTube as well, because that's the only place for me to host videos. This process of being willing to put stuff out there and to receive criticism in the sake of learning really helped me to get over that fear that had held me back for over 10 years. What I've really learned is just the power of momentum that you get going when you start putting stuff out there. And I really regret not getting started earlier, because there's a lot of growth that could have occurred in those 10 plus years. That's all for this episode. Until tomorrow, goodbye.